I like to call my client reach out sheet my masterpiece. I've worked on and perfected this ultimate client tracking sheet for years, and I am so excited to share it with you now. There's a downloadable file of the spreadsheet, and you can customize it if your creative business has different or additional items that you'd like to include. I've always had a knack for research because I have a natural curiosity to learn all kinds of things. After several research and project management positions, I have fine-tuned these skills, and so when it was time for me to start reaching out to clients, I knew exactly how I wanted to organize my findings. So let's break it down. Before you could start filling out information, you're going to need some clients. Now, I prefer to reach out to companies who produce the content I like to animate instead of talking to clients one-on-one. So your process might be a little bit different. If you want to find one-on-one clients, then narrowing down the industry type and specific niche you'd like to work in is going to make your Google searches a lot less intimidating. For example, medical equipment rentals for healthcare, or a scheduling app for babysitters. Or how about custom sympathy cards? Design and animation could be found in every industry. And going after one-on-one clients might be more time-consuming in the research phase, but landing a client versus going after a production company can be pretty lucrative. There are multiple ways to find production companies. I like to start local. I Google motion design in my city, and then I search for the type of work that the companies that are local are doing that I want to be a part of. If you're remote, then choosing any city and doing the same Google search is going to work just as well. One other thing that I like to do is I look up websites that post awards for creative companies, like the Motion Awards, or websites that list reviews for agencies and marketing companies, like Clutch.com. Try Googling annual awards in motion design and see what comes up. Once you have a list of companies, you'll want to start filtering them out by a few factors, starting with their website. How does it look? Does the company feel current? Do they have any latest blogs or news items that you could see? Then dig even deeper. Try to see if they have a video hosting channel and then bring up their LinkedIn. Once you have their LinkedIn open, check to see how long they've been a company. How many employees do they have? The more you dig, the easier it is to decide if you want to reach out. Another thing I like to do is to pick one or two projects that they've produced that's either right at my skill level or right above, so I have something to compliment them on later. Or sometimes I like to pick out projects that are right below my skill level, so I have something more to bring to the table. LinkedIn is also great because you'll be able to tell if they hire remote by checking if their employees are based out of different cities. You can start filling in your notes as you go along, but if something is a red flag or a deal breaker, still mark it down, just drag it to the bottom of your list into what I like to call a questionables group. This is so you can keep tabs on those red flag companies and avoid them in later research. Also in your research phase, don't forget to take notes on recent events, like an award, a move to a new office, a cool project, or a company merger. This will help personalize your warm reach out email. But before we get to that, you're probably wondering why I haven't even mentioned job search sites yet. And this is why. If you see a job being posted online, it's because they've exhausted their internal network and referrals list. Meaning they've already asked their current employees if they could recommend anybody. Think about that. Why would you apply to a job that has a ton of competition when you could be prioritizing being the first person they think of before the job's even posted? Not to say stop applying to job postings altogether, but I would highly suggest prioritizing networking if you have that option. So where do you start? Go back to LinkedIn. Pick an employee who's at the level you want to be at and send them a casual message. Something like, "Hey, how's it going? I'm so-and-so, and I'm a big fan of your work at Company X. I'm an aspiring creative, and I'd love to connect with more creatives in the industry." That's it. Short, friendly, informative, and inquisitive. You can ask for a Zoom chat or a digital coffee later, but let's just get the ball rolling first. If you send a few of these messages to more than one person at the same company, whatever you do not copy and paste. Just change the language up a little bit, just so it's not the exact same. After you get some first connections on LinkedIn, then feel free to move on to a bigger fish, like a manager, art director, or producer. They'll be much more likely to connect with you if you're already connected to some of their employees. List the contacts that you reached out to on your sheet, star their name once they're a first connection, and copy their profile link to refer to later. Now you're ready to send out some reach out emails. Create a second tab in your Excel doc or Google Sheets doc and call it templates. I have templates for initial reach outs, follow-ups, and follow-ups with rate examples in case I want to share some projects to show the range of styles, complexities, and a general timetable for how long it took me to complete them. By the way, if you're not timing yourself while you work, I highly recommend you start using Toggle, just so you have a good idea of how speedy you are. Here are some examples of each type of email that I use. Take note of how short and to the point they are. And having an alternatives list to switch up an email according to the company data that you've already mined helps turn a cold reach out into a warm one. When I'm sending out a batch of reach out emails, I create the email in a Google Doc or use the Notes app first. This way I can customize it using the information on my reach out sheet and also do a pass on spelling and grammar. Then I copy the email over, added the subject heading, and then finally I add the contact email. This is so there is no chance of sending over an unfinished email by accident. Trust me, you do not want to ruin your chances for landing a really cool gig just because of that mistake. Some say there's an art to the subject heading, but I suggest including your name, what you do, and your availability. It's actually really helpful for a producer who's actively looking for new talent. Maybe even include your city if you're local, and absolutely don't forget to put your contact information and a link to your work in your email signature. In fact, you should probably do that right now. Now let's go back to the tracking tab. Now that you sent out your first batch of reach out emails, it's time to group and color code based on their responses. Keep the unsent research lines at the top of your page so you don't forget them, and color the ones that you sent out. If you get a response back, then change the color and track your results. If you don't get a response, then wait a week and send a follow-up email. Always track the dates you send out emails so it's easy to find again. You don't want to keep checking each one, so try setting a calendar alarm for a week later to remind yourself to follow up and update your tracking sheet. If you haven't heard a response after the second email, I suggest following up a month later, and then every 3 to 6 months if you wish to keep trying. One more quick tip. Don't send an email out on a Monday or a Friday. Try to keep it between Tuesday and Thursday, because on Fridays they're wrapping up high priority tasks before the weekend, and on Mondays they're trying to catch up on the tasks and emails that were sent in over the weekend.